At 3:15 in the morning, the world doesn't just feel cold, it feels surgical. I was lying on a gurney under the flickering fluorescent lights of the ER, the metallic taste of fear coating my tongue. Every shallow breath felt like a serrated blade across my ribs. The doctor's voice was a distant hum, explaining that internal bleeding meant I needed surgery now. But because of my medical history, I needed family consent. My hands shook as I dialed my father. Voicemail. I called my mother. Voicemail. I sent a desperate text, my vision blurring. Minutes later, the screen lit up. Can't this wait? We're busy meeting with clients. I stared at those 8 words until they burned into my retinas. I was dying, and I was an inconvenience. Have you ever realized you were invisible to the people who were supposed to see you most? The ER doors hissed open, but it wasn't my parents who walked through. It was Grandpa William. At 74, he looked like a relic of a different era, a retired carpenter with the scent of cedar and old flannel clinging to his skin. His hands, calloused and mapped with a lifetime of honest labor, wrapped around mine with a strength my father's manicured palms never possessed. "Oh, Mabel," he whispered, and in that one breath, the cold weight of being an inconvenience began to melt. While my parents were busy consulting with high-value clients, the man who built things with his hands took the clipboard. He didn't ask about the cost or the delay. He asked the doctor about the risks and the recovery. With a steady hand, he signed the consent forms. As they wheeled me toward the OR, he leaned down, his silver hair messy but his presence absolute. "I'll be right here when you wake up, kiddo." And for the first time in 26 years, I believed him. For days after my surgery, the modern condo elite finally made an appearance. My mother, Linda, walked in first, dropping a bag of gas station candy on my tray table like a tax-deductible donation. My father, Robert, didn't even look at my stitches. He was too busy pacing the linoleum, checking his watch with practiced irritation. "The parking here is just awful, Mabel," he complained, as if my shattered ribs were a personal slight against his schedule. They stayed for exactly 35 minutes, a timed consultation. My mother gossiped about a difficult client while my father asked the only question that mattered to him: "When can you get back to work?" Not, "Does it hurt?" or "How are you?" Just a calculation of my lost productivity. As the door clicked shut, the silence they left behind felt like a verdict. I wasn't their daughter, I was a depreciating asset. The healing at Grandpa Williams was quiet, but the mail Sarah brought over was a scream. Sitting at the scarred wooden kitchen table, I sorted through the wreckage. I called my disability provider, expecting a routine update, only to hear a polite representative drop a bomb. "Your financial proxies, Robert and Linda, already inquired about liquidating the entire fund." Ice water filled my veins. They weren't trying to access it for my care, they were trying to drain it. Then I found the loan rejection letter from my own condo. While I was unconscious in the ICU, my father had tried to leverage my home's equity to plug the holes in his failing firm. This wasn't neglect, it was predation. The learned helplessness I'd felt for years evaporated, replaced by a cold, clinical clarity. They weren't family. They were vultures circling my life, waiting for me to stop breathing. That I handed the letters to Grandpa William. His face didn't redden with rage like my father's. Instead, it grew thunderous and quiet. He walked into his study and returned with an old, cracked leather address book, a relic of a time when a man's word was his bond. He dialed a number from memory and said just 6 words: "Harrison, it's William. My granddaughter's in trouble." Harrison wasn't just a lawyer, he was a high-stakes litigation specialist who had known Grandpa for 40 years. As I explained the restructuring and the home equity loan, I heard the sharp, rhythmic scratch of a pen on a legal pad. "Mabel," Harrison said, his voice a calm, lethal blade, "what they've done is fiduciary betrayal." While I focused on physical therapy, they focused on a surgical strike. We weren't just defending, we were building a fortress. At 2 p.m., they marched in, looking like they were walking into a tiresome meeting. My father, Robert, didn't even glance at my crutches. "Whatever this is, Mabel, make it quick. We have a showing at 3. He stopped cold when he saw Mr. Harrison sitting next to me, briefcase open. I didn't flinch. I slid a manila envelope across the coffee table, the weight of 26 years of silence finally finding its voice. "These are legal revocations," I said, my voice as steady as Grandpa's carpenter's level. "You are no longer my proxies, my beneficiaries, or my family." My father's face turned a blotchy, toxic red. "Ungrateful," he roared. "We were protecting your assets." I looked him in the eye, the learned helplessness finally gone. Protecting them? Or liquidating them while I was in surgery? The silence that followed was absolute. The predators had finally been caught in the light, the door closed, and for the first time in 26 years, I breathed air that didn't feel heavy with expectation. I sold the condo, the glossy cage my father viewed as a piggy bank, and found a ground-floor apartment with wide doorways and a small patio. Grandpa William didn't just help me move, he built a sturdy wooden ramp for the entrance. "Just until you're steady," he said, but we both knew he built it to last. That I returned to my nonprofit, but I wasn't the invisible girl anymore. I launched a legal advocacy program for medical survivors, ensuring no one else wakes up to find vultures picking at their life. Last night, my kitchen was full of laughter, ceramic bowls, and a chosen family that actually shows up. I finally realized, your worth isn't defined by the love you didn't receive, but by the strength you find to build your own way home.